Welcome to the Healthy Careers Podcast, where we help healthcare providers succeed on purpose. We take a conversational approach in learning from others who have been there and done that. Join us as we share expert insights from real people who are just like you, because we believe that success isn't just a destination, it's an intentional journey, and you don't have to do it alone.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Healthy Careers Podcast. I'm your host, Maddie, and today I am super excited to have Dr. Lamikanra with me today. She is a hand, wrist, and elbow surgeon, correct?
Yes.
I'm getting all that right?
You
So
are.
she does a lot of different things, but she is also a mom as well as a wife. So we're going to talk about kind of the balancing act of all of those things, as well as different measures that you can take to achieve, I don't like to say full balance because we know that that's somewhat impossible in medicine right now,
Pretty much.
but better balance in our life outside of medicine. So thank you so much for joining me today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Awesome. So first, I'd love to have you just kind of introduce you, what you do, and then we'll kind of dive into those topics a little bit later.
Absolutely. So I'm Dr. Lamikanra. I am a board certified orthopedic hand surgeon. So I operate from fingertips to mid-shaft humerus or middle of the arm. I will have been in practice for almost 8 years next month.
Wow.
So that's kind of funny to say. It's been that
You said
long.
next week?
Next month.
Next month.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
that's
end
a
of the
big
month.
milestone. Congrats.
Yeah. So it's been a while. I started with a large multi-specialty group, and I was with them for about 7 years. And over the last year, I kind of transitioned into a smaller practice. I'm based in Atlanta, so that, lots of different orthopedic groups in the area, and different options, and I can talk more about that too.
Yeah, definitely. I want to talk about that as well, just in terms of that transition, because I think a lot of people are currently with the larger groups, right? Multi-specialty, and they may be feeling like if I stay here, there's no way that I can achieve balance. But, you can talk about your transition into more of a private practice setting and how that's helped you to at least get closer to feeling like you have a little bit of your life back. So I think that'll be super interesting to hear kind of your experience and how you went through that transition as well.
Yeah, it's very common for people, especially coming out of medical school and fellowship and the debt that
Yeah.
we accrue with that, to go into kind of the more secure, larger organizations. And
Yeah.
in hindsight, I'm still glad I did it. I think it was a great transition for me out of fellowship. I had great partners that I was working with at the time. So I picked up a lot of extra skills. There's a lot of comfort in the larger groups, and that I didn't have to worry about going to find my patients. They came to me. There's stability in terms of income, and it just allowed for me to kind of make a nice transition from fellowship into practice. It did start to become a little bit more restrictive in a sense, as my life changed. And so one of those things that I've talked with many people about is how we have these different seasons in our life. And starting at a large multi-specialty group was great for that season that I was in. But, I met my husband, I had 2 children, and I just found that I was struggling to not balance, but just kind of into a successful place with both of them. I understand, in my mind, balance does not mean everything is balanced at the same time. More so that, like, sometimes some things are better balanced than others. Home is better balanced sometimes, work is better balanced, those type of things. So you're constantly trying to get back to a place where you're going between the two in a more seamless way.
I think it's so true. And it's in any relationship we have, whether it's with our careers or our friends, it's like sometimes I don't talk to like what I would consider my childhood best friend for 3 months. And then we get on the phone for 3 hours and we're like, okay, let's just run through all the things, right? Like, let's start at the top and let's just update each other. And it doesn't mean that we don't have balance in our friendship. It's just like there's an understanding that at times we can't be texting back and forth and on the phone and sharing memes all
Seriously.
the time because we're busy. So I think it's so true in our workplace too, or when we try to compare like balance at home to balance at work to balance with
Mm-hmm.
our social life to our
Mm-hmm.
fitness life. Like it's not apples to apples. And
No,
so
it's
I think
difficult.
that's the first realization when people are hard on themselves about it is it's like it is never going to be an equilibrium ever.
Yes, yes, truly. I say my friend group is a very forgiving group. We all
That's
forgive
good,
each other.
right? I know.
And it is funny, the friends that I have that are also doctors, it's like, okay, we're going to catch up on work. Okay, we're going to catch up on family. Okay, we're going to catch up on like whatever
Yes.
other topic. It's like,
You almost have to schedule it, right? It's
you
like,
really
when can I
do.
pencil you in? Yeah.
So that is one thing I have embraced, is the schedule. Just if
Mhm.
it's not on my calendar, I cannot guarantee it's going to happen.
Right.
But having that and carving out the things that aren't meetings, that are just simple catch ups, that are just
Yeah.
fun things to do, have become more critical over the years.
Yeah. Well, you need that break because mentally, if you just consume your whole day with tasks and then you don't have any time for your brain to just kind of tune out for a second or two, even if it's
Yes.
just 10 minutes, right? Like
Yes.
before this, I went home, I ate lunch, I played piano for 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Makes a world of a difference
that
before I
does.
get back to work after being at work all morning, right? And
Yes.
I think we see it as being unproductive when in reality, it resets and makes us more productive for the second half of the day.
It truly does. And like you can't be going at 100% all the time. You'll run out
Yeah.
of steam. You just
Yeah.
will.
Yep.
Trust me, I know.
Agreed. You've done that before, I'm venturing. You've tried that approach.
Exactly. Because they talk about your thoughts and the way that you talk to yourself and those type of things. And I can definitely talk to myself and say go 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 go. And eventually my body's like this doesn't
No.
make
Yeah.
sense.
Not working.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting too because I have family that's in medicine and I hear this a lot that I think it's a lot different for women in medicine than it is for
Mhm.
men
Mhm.
because if you take especially when you're a surgeon,
Mhm.
because I mean at any given point and we'll talk about kind of the difference maybe between the larger group and then the private practice with maybe
Mhm.
predictability of schedule. But from a surgical standpoint, I mean if somebody needs you and it's
Yeah.
an urgent matter, you can't just say, "Well, I'm with my kids, so I can't make
Exactly.
it." Like you're
Exactly.
the doctor. And I
Exactly.
think a lot of times because it's a male dominated field, from a surgeon standpoint, that it's like if a man has to leave the work event to go do that, it's not frowned upon.
Mhm. Mhm.
But if the
Mhm.
woman has to, well, then she is, neglecting her family and not
Yeah.
able to manage her time.
Yeah.
And I think that's a pivotal point for women who are in medicine to say, hey, wait a minute, like there's a double standard, number one.
Mhm.
But just because I take that time does not make me a bad surgeon when I do choose to be a surgeon versus a
Exactly.
mom. Like it doesn't take
Yeah.
away from my credibility.
The interesting thing is there are people who are starting to study these things in terms of perception of female
Mm,
surgeons, in that, like, if a woman surgeon has a certain negative outcome, it's judged more harshly than if a male has it.
mm,
Or, just different perceptions of women in the surgical world. Not to say that
yeah,
that's something, you think about constantly, but it is something that they've kind of started to realize is a factor. The other aspect is just gender roles in, general.
yeah,
Just women tend to take more of the household responsibilities on.
yeah.
Thankfully, my husband and I have this kind
A
of
good
system
split.
of sharing and splitting, and he's wonderful at taking a lot of the different tasks. We kind of have a little bit of give and take with some of those.
Mhm.
And so that allows us to kind of function well as a family.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard. Like, my kids are sick right now. I was in a meeting with a device company this at lunch, and the pediatrician called to update me on
Mhm.
their swab results, and it's just a juggle that is constant. I say the juggle is real, not the struggle. It's a
Yeah.
juggle.
It is 100%. And I mean, it is so true that it's important who you choose as your spouse
Mhm.
because I can relate to that 100%. Like my
Yeah.
husband, when he can tell I'm like up to here and I'm just like having a week and I'm like, hey, the laundry's not done.
Yeah.
The dishes are not done. Like,
Yeah.
there's no food in the house. We're getting Chipotle tonight, and I
Exactly.
will make sure I'm on top of my game next week, but this week I need a little bit of
Exactly.
grace, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. And
And
giving
then
that
it's
to
like,
yourself.
yeah, and it's give and take. Like, and then the next
Hmm.
week he's up to here, and I'm like,
Yes.
I'll handle it,
Yes.
you know? Like,
Yeah.
we've got each other.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
so I think
That
that's so important.
fluidity is so important. And it allows us to do more.
Yeah.
He's, successful. He's an accountant, but then
Okay.
also like we run our grout and tile business. Like
Oh, wow.
there's, we just sign up for everything. That's certainly what we do.
I was like, wait, I did not know about this. So you're also a business owner. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Throw that into the mix. Why not?
But like having, the ability for us to work together
Hmm.
makes us more successful as a couple than we probably would be as individuals.
Yeah. I remember this was years back, but I heard on the radio, it was like, you want to romanticize marriage, right? And it's a beautiful
Mhm.
thing. But at the end of the
Mhm.
day, that is your business partner.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
you are getting into a business partnership and managing children,
Very much.
balancing your careers, like
Very
all the
much.
things that are going to be thrown at you. So choose
Yes.
wisely. Like,
Yeah.
if you wouldn't get into a business deal with this person, probably don't marry them.
Yeah. No, it really and truly.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. So let's kind of talk about what inspired you to become a surgeon. Like, kind of
Mhm.
back up and give us the rundown of, like, did you always know you wanted to be in medicine, or what was kind of that aha moment for you?
Yeah, so medicine kind of crashed into me.
Okay.
So I used to play soccer. I was travel soccer in high school, year-round soccer, and in one of my travel games, actually in Georgia, funny enough, even though I'm from
Okay.
Florida, a girl just crashed right into me and tore my ACL,
Ooh.
and kind of was treated, and basically, I think the surgeon may actually have been a little kind of concerned about my growth plates being open. So I ended up playing a year of soccer with a torn ACL and switched
Oh,
surgeons, went to a guy who did a wonderful job, and I had my ACL reconstructed. And so I was
okay.
able to get back to playing soccer after I switched surgeons. And
Yeah.
so, the whole experience of like, that's a cool job. This guy hangs with athletes all day, makes them better. Like,
Yeah.
it sounds like who wouldn't want to do that? So, in hindsight, my naivete probably gave me big goal setting options.
Yeah.
But from there, I just kind of thought that the orthopedic aspect of medicine was very cool.
Hmm.
I, went to undergrad. I did a year at the hospital for special surgery in their orthopedics department. So I got more
Okay.
exposure to
Yeah.
orthopedics. And I have
Up in New York?
had in New York, yeah. I
Yeah.
was there for a year after
Very
undergrad.
cool.
And so then I went to med school. I continued to have exposure to the field and then got to residency. And
Hmm.
I thought I was going to do sports medicine, but then I didn't really like the shoulder in terms
I
of the
was just about to
surgeries.
ask you, like, what made you select? Because I feel like a lot of times people are then like, okay, so I became a hip and knee surgeon
Yeah, right, right,
because I
right.
tore my ACL.
And I was like, no, actually. So I remember the moment I was in a rotator cuff and there was like water everywhere and I was cold and I was like, I don't think I like this. Let me find
Yeah,
something else. But hand is so cool. Like you can move a tendon from one place to another and make the finger work. It was just like I
mhm.
nerded out. And so ended up
That
going
is
to
really
hand.
cool. Well, and I think too, you think about how much we use our hands. Like, if you
Hmm.
try to just go without even one finger for the day,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
There's so much
Exactly.
more impact in your just daily activities.
Yes.
Whereas, like, I have a torn meniscus right now.
Hmm.
To be honest, I still do all the
Function
things.
pretty
Like,
well, right?
like, I'm still good. Like, I should be having
Yeah.
surgery at some point, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
until then, like, it's not like I can't function in every
Mhm.
single day activities. Whereas I feel like if I didn't have, these 2 fingers moving, well, then I
Yes.
would be not able to type.
Everything you reach for.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's just that much more impactful too, to be able to get somebody back to full, or at least partial functionality of something that is so vital for every single day. But
Yes, absolutely. The other thing is, like, I mean, we repair nerves and we still get bones and all those
yeah,
other things. So it's cool.
yeah, definitely. And so with you doing hand, wrist, and elbow, what do you typically like when you think about the patient population that you work with? What
Mhm.
is like kind of the majority of what you're doing? Is it working
Well,
with athletes?
not much.
Okay.
Funny enough. So I mean, I do still see athletes like with the common injuries.
Mhm.
I would say my number one diagnosis is carpal tunnel syndrome, trigger finger syndrome, ganglion cysts. Those are kind of my bread and butter. Wrist
Okay.
tendonitis. Those are my bread and butter things. But then on top of that, I have fractures of anywhere from the fingertips up to the elbows. So
Yep.
finger fractures, wrist fractures, forearm, elbow, all of that.
Okay.
I don't do much in terms of like flaps and those type of things. Like kind of more local rotational flaps would be things that I
Very
would
cool.
see.
Okay.
It's kind of my
A
my
good variety though.
range. Yeah,
Yeah.
tendon repairs, those type of.
Cool. Okay. And I want to talk a little bit more. I guess we can start by talking about how you've not achieved, but found better balance. Because, like we say, it's a journey, not a destination, right? We're
It
always
is.
trying to make ways to work smarter, not harder. So I'd love to hear a little bit about why you made the choice to move from a larger multi-specialty practice to now a private practice, and how that has helped you regain a bit more, I guess, life back outside of medicine.
Yeah, yeah. So the ability to control my schedule is very difficult to achieve in a larger
Mm.
group, and that's just because it's a larger group. They have more
Yeah.
people that they're trying to accommodate and account for. There's a larger patient population that you're dealing with, and more factors, and which is fine when home has flexibility, but home had
Mhm.
less flexibility. I had my daughter in 2023, my son in 2021. So as you can imagine, it
Yeah.
was
Is that
it's a
2
lot.
under 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, 2 years, 2 months in between them.
Okay, same thing. We'll
Yeah,
count
but
it.
yeah, it was kind of close. And so in that same sense, I started to feel like I needed to look at different options. I considered going into private practice for myself.
Mhm.
But then this opportunity came up. I started talking with the group. I felt like there's a personal aspect
Mhm.
to it, and an ability to kind of build a practice in a way that I think would allow for more longevity
Sure.
and allow for me to see my kids.
Yeah.
One of the things is the office is closer.
Okay.
So I have two offices that I go to, one down south and one in Buckhead, Atlanta, and it's 10 minutes from where I live.
That's great.
So I can drop off the kids and head to work in
Mhm.
a way that I could not have done in that larger group.
Yeah.
So just even cutting down on my commute on some days of the week has been a big
Dramatic.
difference
Yeah.
in me being able to get the kids ready in the morning or pick
Mhm.
them up or wave at the teacher. Those type of things
Yeah.
are helpful. Also, like just having people who know my face.
Mhm.
So the billers know my face. The front desk knows my face. We're all kind of in the same buildings. We've all met
Yep.
each other. That kind of intimate feel was something I was looking for. And then also, I'm able to build my team. So like my MA knows, okay, what time are you coming in, doc? When I'm coming in, how to get the patients ready. Like I'm working with the same person each time. And so
Right.
that
More
has
fun
made
too.
me more efficient as a surgeon. But then also it allows me to condense more into the work day so that I'm not going home and taking home notes and doing a lot of
Mhm.
stuff. I really try and get my notes done while I'm in the office. That being said, of course, last night I was doing notes.
Good for you.
But
Well,
the majority of the time it's during the
yeah.
workday.
If you can do it 80% of the time, then that's a win.
It makes a big difference because that's what I was doing with after the birth of my son. I was coming home, the chaos of getting them to bed, and then I
Yep.
was getting them down and then starting notes at 9 o'clock. And it was brutal. And then you go to sleep, you wake up, you do it all again. And that
Yeah.
was kind of when I just said something has to change. This is not sustainable.
Yeah.
Um,
I bet. And I mean, it's hard because a lot of times, and I'm not a doctor, but I mean, I can imagine even in my schedule, there's some days where it's like I wake up I make coffee. I have like 10 minutes with my husband. We're like, what does
Mhm.
your day look like? Okay,
Mhm.
here's what my day looks like.
Yes.
Break. And
Yeah.
then it's like you don't see each other again until, 6 o'clock. And then we're
Yeah.
like shoving a pre-workout in our mouth, going to the
Yes.
gym. We don't work out together. So like I've got my podcast on. I'm like catching up on emails. And then
Mhm.
we get home and we eat dinner at like 8 o'clock. And it's like, hey, I haven't seen you for 12 hours or like really talked to you. And so I think also just being wary of that
Yeah.
because we can be replaced at work. We can't be replaced in our home. Like there's never going to be
Very
someone that
true.
does our job
Very,
or
very, very true.
does any of that as well and as lovingly as we would. But
Mhm.
I think also outsourcing some tasks to make your life easier is also key. Like I have a house cleaner come every 2 weeks.
Mhm.
It helps tremendously for me to not have to think like, "I've gotta pull out the vacuum at 9 o'clock at night
Yeah.
and sweep up this stuff." Like, no, the cleaners are coming. I don't have to worry about
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. That was something I had to figure out, what can be outsourced and what actually needs to be done by me. And
Mhm.
the first things when I think back about my childhood was, I think about the times that my parents were there.
Yeah.
When my dad was with me at the soccer game, when my mom was, made it to soccer games, or when she served me like, hot breakfast in the morning. Those are the memories that I have. I don't necessarily remember like, her doing the laundry for me. That doesn't like
No.
remind me of my mother,
Right.
and so of course, there are those things that I want to teach him how to do in the future. But for right now, I'm just trying to keep my head above water.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, it's funny now, my mom is actually in Atlanta. So that has been one thing that has helped
Oh,
tremendously.
I'm
My
sure.
sister is here in Atlanta. That has helped tremendously. My mom
Mhm.
comes in the morning and helps get the kids ready. So it's kind
Oh,
of
awesome.
it's been so that helps for the days where I have to go to the southern location and I'm getting
Yep.
up or I'm out of the house by 7 a.m. It doesn't make sense to get the kids up at like 6 a.m. So she comes and helps. That being said, mom also travels. So there are sometimes she's there and sometimes she's not. But
Yeah.
the majority of the time, they look forward to seeing grandma. It's
Yeah.
been very helpful. And of course, now the kids get a warm breakfast. Whereas before mom moved here, they would get like a muffin on the way out the door.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's yeah, different tasks. Cleaning the house, keeping the yard, those type of
Mhm.
things help you run on autopilot. We actually looked into getting a house manager and eventually hired one because it's the they used to call it like the mommy's helper or something like that. But I call her a house manager because she manages a lot of things that go on.
Yeah.
If you need somebody at the house because both of you guys are at work, or just gives you a little bit more flexibility
Yeah.
in terms of being able to delegate some tasks so
Mhm.
that I can spend more time with my kids. If I'm getting up and I'm out the house by 6:45, I'm not seeing my kids that morning. It's just not going to happen. And letting go of the guilt associated with that was easier to do once I know I can spend that quality time with them in the afternoon.
Yeah. And I think too, a lot of people, listening maybe who are not in the financial place, I think I try to also think about this aspect of it because my parents were 2 school teachers with 3 children, so they didn't have the means to have a house cleaner come every week. They didn't have the means to
Exactly.
have, a house manager per se, but they still made do, and there were
Mhm.
times that they did, and I think
Mhm.
what I've come to realize in my times where I had nothing to the times where I had an abundance,
Mhm.
from a fiscal standpoint is money, you have to associate your time and your joy to a value, right? So if you value the time with your kids
Absolutely.
at X amount, or you value your hourly rate, right? Like if a practice
Mhm.
pays you X amount per hour, and I spend 2 hours cleaning my house rather than outsourcing that to somebody for probably less than what you would charge
Yes.
based on what you're good at, then it actually is cost effective because you're having to spend that money, whether it's in your time or it's to somebody else. And in my mind, too, I think like if I have the money to do it, I'm now also supporting somebody and
Yes.
their business and their expertise to do the things that I really don't want to do anyway.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not to say that I'm above doing laundry or that I don't want to do it. Like, it needs
No,
to be done. But if
absolutely.
I can outsource it, or like I get Just Meat subscription,
Yeah.
I get my meats delivered
Yes.
every single week, and I can just pop
Yes.
them in the microwave for dinner with rice, and
Yeah.
dinner's done. Like,
And it's and if you actually think about it, if you think about the times that you would have eaten out
mhm,
versus having the subscription service, it may actually be cheaper to have even
100%
though it feels like a luxury, you actually are
spending less.
facing the reality of your schedule and
Mhm.
understanding that the times that I would have eaten out are probably going to add up to this amount anyway. So I might as well do something that's a little healthier,
Exactly.
um, and
Yeah.
plan for that. And that's I truly I value the time with my family and my kids, and
Yeah.
if that requires me kind of buying more of that time, because it's either time or money, right?
Yeah.
If I can buy a little bit more of that time with my family, I'm going to try and do that where I can.
Yeah.
There are times when I can't.
Yeah.
There's, you know, random daycare events that happen during the day, and I can't necessarily cancel a clinic to make
Yeah.
it or a
Sure.
surgery to go. But if there is something where, you know, I have a little bit more control over my schedule now. So let's say there
Mhm.
is something and it's around lunchtime and I can kind of,
Stay away for a minute.
extend
Yeah.
lunch about 30 minutes and maybe see those patients a little earlier in order to go 5 minutes up the road to the daycare. That is high value quality moments for
Yes.
me. But I try not to guilt myself if I can't.
And you can't, because I think also I talk to people and I talk to them about like the difference between the big hospitals. And I think you're right.
Mhm.
Like, so many people go that route for the stability factor. And let's
Mhm.
face it, a lot of times they pay more, their benefits are better,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're also kind of trading in, again, that time factor,
Yes.
that unpredictability in your schedule to
Mhm.
make, maybe probably 5 to 10% more. Now,
Mhm.
I understand when people are like, hey, in my specialty, I can make 50% more doing this. Well, then knock
Yeah.
yourself out, right? Like, that's a no
Yes.
brainer.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you also have to think about, how does this then play out to being able to go to my kids' play or field
Yeah.
trip,
Yeah.
or being able to cook them a breakfast,
Yeah.
rather than just saying like, here's $5, get hot lunch today,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think our generation is also kind of looking at what was the hustle culture of our parents'
Mhm.
generation and
Yeah.
saying, as much as I admire that and as much as I feel
Yes.
like it is good to have that ingrained work ethic,
Yeah.
you're not going to be on your deathbed and say, man, like, I wish I didn't hire that cleaner so that
I
I
know.
could have gone to the baseball game. You're never
Exactly.
going to regret that.
I don't know how my parents did it. I honestly know.
Mhm.
I mean, they were both also I'm first generation American in that my dad
Okay.
immigrated from Nigeria, my mom
Very
immigrated from
cool.
Guyana. And like the fact that, and there are three of us. I remember after my son, I was like, how did you do this with three,
I
mom?
know. I know. I think I'm like, I mean, I know it was a different time back then, but still, I'm like, dang, mom,
Oh,
like, is everything okay? Like,
right,
what can
right.
I do to help now?
No, no, really. No, I understand in a different way. Yeah, but it's it's you learn those lessons from your parents, and I
Mhm.
do hope to eventually instill that work ethic in my children
Of
and an
course.
understanding of how to, you know, take care of the house and do other
Mhm.
things. But right now, I think, they're too young to learn it anyway.
Yeah.
And so I encourage here and there where I can, but just trying to build my team. Um,
Mhm.
I'm thankful and privileged to have family here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, mom raised us. I don't want to try and have mom now raise grandkids.
Yes.
So
Yeah, yeah.
she comes, she plays, she's very valuable in their life. And then when she wants to live her life too, which she has more than earned,
Yeah.
we have a
You
team
can
to
go
kind of
do
help
that.
out too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, when they're young, I think a lot of people or that generation, they're like, "Oh, aren't you gonna teach your kids how to do it?" Instead of just them seeing, somebody else do it.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, though, they're young. And when you think
Mm-hmm.
back to your childhood, like you don't remember mom's at my baseball game because she has cleaners at the house. You just
Yeah.
think mom was at
No,
my baseball game,
it's true. It's
you
true.
know?
You
So
don't
it's
think
like,
about how it happened.
no, you don't
Yeah.
know the context of it. You're, 10. You're just worried about
Yes.
like, are you going to get like the bubble gum that you want at the baseball stand after the
Yes.
game?
Yeah.
And so I think people also try to put their like almost guilt and expectations and
Mm-hmm.
try to think that that's how a child is seeing the filter. And it's like, I
Mm-hmm.
promise you they're not, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. There's some balance to it.
yeah.
And, it's funny though, like my son loves like throwing clothes in the laundry. So anytime I am doing laundry or like if I am like, unloading the dishwasher, oh my gosh, he's in the let me do it myself phase.
Yes.
Which I don't know how long this lasts. It feels like it lasts a long time.
I love it.
but those are the times when I do instill those things in
Yeah.
them and understanding that this doesn't come, for
It's
free.
easy.
Like
Yeah.
mommy goes to work so you can go to school. And
Yep.
yeah,
It's so
hopefully
true.
that works out. We'll see.
I remember my dad, when I graduated high school,
Mhm.
I grew up in a pretty like wealthy town, and my parents
Mhm.
weren't wealthy by any means. They were school teachers, but when I graduated high school, some of my friends were getting trips to like international places and like
Wow.
$1,000 gifts for graduating high
Wow.
school. And I went to my dad and I was like, "Hey, like, did you happen to get me a gift?" And he's like, "For what?" I said, "Well, I graduated high school." And he's like,
Uh-huh.
"Congratulations. That was your only job. Like, you didn't have any other responsibilities other than making it through grade school. Like, what do you want, a high five?" And
I took care of everything else for you.
everything else was taken care of. Like, you didn't have to worry about rent, or mortgage. You didn't have to
Exactly.
get food in the
Ooh.
house. Like,
Yes.
your mom did your laundry for you.
Yes. Yes.
So, I think it's also just shifting the mindset too of like, as a kid, they're supposed to be kids, they're
Mhm.
supposed to not have
Mhm.
tons of responsibilities, but there is
Mhm.
that appreciation level too of what has been done for you. And
Yes.
then for future generations, how you're going to give that back.
Yes. Absolutely. And I think these are lessons that you learn along the way. Like you
Mhm.
said, I mean, I remember wanting to sign up for some fancy travel soccer team, and my parents are like, "No,
No.
we can't do it." It's like, "What? Just write a check."
You're ruining my life,
Um,
mom and dad.
and so we learn these financial lessons. We do, and I definitely plan on having those conversations because I remember when those conversations were had with me, and
Mhm.
I do think so. That's just another component of this is I have really tried to make travel a part of our life
Mhm.
because I think understanding the world gives you a better appreciation and
Yeah.
insight into the things that I see every day are not necessarily everybody's reality. And over time, hopefully, I'm able to expose them to more.
I think so too. I think traveling, it opens your eyes to see how the majority of the world lives
Mm-hmm.
when if you are in a position where you're like, "Oh, my kids don't really have the opportunity to see that they have it really good," right?
Mm-hmm.
And that
Mm-hmm.
there are people
Mm-hmm.
out there that, I get onto myself because I'll be picky about my food.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be like, "Oh, like, I don't that has too much sugar," or like my smoothie this, my smoothie that. And I'm like, there's
Yeah.
somebody that would literally grab the smoothie out of my hand and be
Yeah.
like, "I
Yep.
haven't ate out in, you know, 6 months because I
Yeah.
don't have the money to."
Yeah.
So it's all about that perspective too
For
of
sure.
like, even though I tell my husband at night when we're stressed, I'm like, we are complaining about the blessings that we prayed for. Like, we prayed for these things, and now we're trying to complain that we have stress from the things that
Mhm.
we
Yeah.
have, we get to
Yeah.
do.
Understanding gratitude and
Yes.
just being
Tough.
thankful gives you a really different perspective.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And funny enough, like when we travel also, they see other people doing even better.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. I know. It's
like,
so
whoa, that's a
frustrating.
fancy building.
Yeah. Like that hotel, like has somebody
Yeah.
that puts your sunscreen on for you so you don't
I
have to
know,
sit
right?
here.
Right. So I think it's just, exposure and guidance. And if I can get more of that time with them, I want them to know not just, mommy was a surgeon, but, mommy is a surgeon and mommy was there when she could
Yeah.
be. So
I think it's just being present, being
yeah,
intentional, because I think
yeah,
our culture is so after the next thing, the next better thing, the next challenge.
yeah,
And that's a great thing to have that ambition and to never settle and to feel challenged by something. But it's also sometimes I'm like, I really wish that I could just step back and enjoy what I've already accomplished more and be intentional and in the moment with people rather than thinking about the next task that I have to get to or
very true.
the next thing that I feel like I need to achieve. And
Yeah.
there's beauty in that too. And that's something that teaching your kids ability to live in the moment
Mhm.
is so important.
Yeah, it's true. And I'm still navigating this whole motherhood thing.
Yeah.
It's only been
Aren't we
a
all?
little over 3 years.
Yeah. It's okay.
So, there's dreams and there's realities, and hopefully, they meet somewhere in the middle
Hmm.
as we, go through
They
that.
will. For sure. You're doing a great job. You're doing all the things and sounds like you've got it under control.
Thanks. For moments in time.
Yeah. Small little
And
moment.
other times it's just total chaos.
That's okay too. Awesome. Well, this has been really telling. I think there's a lot of people out there, whether you're male or female in medicine, who feel this tug between being in the moment with family and maybe just if you don't have a family, you don't have kids, just being in the moment with yourself and your hobbies and things you enjoy outside of work. And I think it's a good reminder that in the juggle of all of it, right, that we can still make that time and outsource without feeling guilty for doing so.
Yeah,
That it
I
is
think
okay.
family first.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yes. 100%. Because you can't be replaced there.
Definitely not.
As much as some days we wish we could be, we cannot.
Definitely juggling at home.
Awesome. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for your time. And until next time, everyone, have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Healthy Careers Podcast, where we provide a platform for you to ask hard questions and get real answers. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends. Stay tuned for more episodes every other Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern.